This conference will now be recorded.
So, hope you guys are able to see the screen, and I hope you guys are able to hear me clearly. Um, so, yesterday we started with the demo session. So, we discussed various things at a high level. So, we discussed about what is performance testing, why LoadRunner, how is it different from JMeter, what is LoadRunner architecture, how do you record a simple flow using Vuegen, which is one of the component of the LoadRunner architecture. And we also discussed about the course content. Okay, and I have answered all the questions yesterday. So if you have any questions, if you have any further questions, right, we can discuss today. So uh, coming to today's session, we are going sorry, we are going to discuss about different types of performance testing. So in yesterday's session, I told a simple one-liner definition that performance testing is all about checking the performance of an application by applying some load. Can anyone tell what does the term load mean as per yesterday's session? So yesterday we discussed about this term load, right? What do you mean by load? Even
Users.
it's like
Applying
users
the
as per
users on the
yesterday's session. Okay. Now, so that means you are testing this performance of a software application by applying some load. That means you're testing with multiple users, like 50 users, 100 users, 200 users, 500 users, like that. Now, in performance testing projects, what exactly we do? What are the different types of performance testing we have, and what are those? So we'll discuss that. Before discussing that again, one more point. In general, performance testing is measured in terms of speed, stability, and scalability. Okay, so performance testing is measured in terms of speed, stability, and scalability. So this is important point. Okay, so now when we discuss about different types of performance testing, we will I will relate these words to some of those types of performance testing. Okay, now first type of performance testing, actually I have slides. uh, I have slides which will explain about each type of performance testing, but I prefer to write it on notepad today so that I can give you a running notes. At the same time, I'll also share the slides later. Okay, so now there are different types of performance testing. First one is load test. Okay, second one, let's say stress test. Third, endurance, or you can also call it as soak, or you can also call it as duration test. Then scalability test. Then you have volume test. Okay, then you have failover test. Then you have like spike test. Okay, um, so these are the different types of performance testing what we have. And as a performance tester, we might need to execute some of these in your projects. So if you are assigned to any performance testing project, it doesn't mean that you have to execute all these types of tests, not mandatory. In every performance testing project, there will be um, maybe one or two or three max types of performance testing they follow. Okay, now the mandatory one which every project will run is a load test. It's a mandatory one. Okay, and this is the first major type of test that we do. Okay, so as part of as part of different types of performance testing, the first type of performance test, what they do is the load test. This is the first major test. Now, why I'm calling it as a first major test is, if this test is a failure, okay, if this test is a failure, then there is no point in running other types of tests. Okay, there is no point in running other types of tests. So this test should be successful test. Okay, then only we can run other types of tests. Okay, now let's try to understand what this load test is all about. So load test is nothing but checking the speed of the application, speed of the application by applying the expected load. Simple terms. Okay, so that means you are specifically checking the speed of the application. What do you mean by speed? What do you mean by speed of the application? So here I mentioned performance testing is measured in terms of speed. So that speed is actually related to this type of test. So when I say checking the speed of the application, it means how fast the application is responding. How fast the application is responding. Now I will click a link on the UI. Okay, so here, let's say yesterday we were discussing about, one second. Yesterday we were discussing about, um, one second. Okay, I'll just take some, one second. Okay, so let's say this is a link. Okay, I'm just taking an example. Now, when I say checking the speed of the application, so that means for every action that you perform on the UI, let's say on the application, for example, I click a link here. See, I'm clicking the link fish. It then this page loaded successfully. How much time it has taken? Hardly a second or less than a second, right? So if I click on this second fish, tiger shark. So how much time it has taken? Hardly less than a second, right? So
Yes.
here, what exactly it means is, when you are, see, I just clicked on it. I am the only user. Now, when I am running the test with, let's say, 1,000 users or 500 users, and all those 1,000 users actually click some link or the other here, then how this entire application is responding, how the pages are loading, how much time it is taking to load the page. Okay, so whenever you click any link or whenever you click any button, how much time it is taking to navigate to next page. So that is related to speed. So okay, so that is related to speed. Now, okay, we understood that it is all about checking the application speed. Now, for how long this test will run? Okay, load test, load test, I know it is all about checking the speed, but how long we have to run this test? This test will be run for 1 hour, 1 hour steady state. I'll tell you what is steady state later, but let for time being just assume that this will run for 1 hour. So this load test we will have to run for how many hours? 1 hour. Okay. Now, and then what is that we are going to verify here? Okay, you are going to run the load test. Sorry, you are going to run the load test. Load here is nothing but, let's say, number of users. Okay, and let's say here 500 for time being. Okay, for today example 500 users. I'm just taking the example as 500 users. So load is nothing but number of users. So example 500 users for today. And how long we run the test? 1 hour steady state. That means we will run for 1 hour. Okay, I'll tell you what is steady state later, but assume that we will run for 1 hour. Okay, what is that we are going to verify? Okay, I'm running the load test. I want to verify some results. What is that I'm going to verify as part of this test? So as part of this test, when you run the test, when you analyze, the very basic thing that you verify is the response times. Verify response times. So response times means response response times means Whenever you click any link or you click any button, how much time it is taking. I clicked on this link. Okay, so it took some time to load this page. Now I click on add to cart. So it is taking some time to load this page like that. Okay, so response times. Okay, so in performance testing terminology, so it will be something like this. This is the machine from where you are clicking a button. That means we call it as client. Let's say this is a fish button. When you click on it, a request will go to the application server. Okay, in the backend there will be something called server, which I'll explain in the next session. So there is something called server. The request will go to server, and then this server will understand what is being sent or requested, and then it will process and it then send it the response back. And then once the response is back, it will be displayed here. So the amount of time taken for the request to go to server and then process it here and then coming back as a response, this whole thing, okay, is called response time. So response time is nothing but the amount of time taken from the client, this is client, let's say, from the client to the server, and then the server will process it and then we get the response, right? So so it's like the complete cycle, to and fro. So it is called response times. Okay, so response times, yesterday we have seen, right, when I run the test, I don't know how many of you joined. Okay, yesterday we ran a simple script once. Okay, I just wanted to show how the scripting will be in the Vusion, and then we replayed the script, and it was showing login launch has taken 0.3 seconds, login has taken 0.5 seconds, like that. How many of you remember yesterday? So it was showing some response times, right? So
Yes. One second. Yes.
yeah, so those are called response times. Now, what is the max number that is allowed for the response time? That means if I click a link, okay, if I click a link over here, let's say remove, how much time it is taking to load? So I clicked on some link here, then it loaded this page. Okay, so what is the max time that is allowed? I click a link, let's say it is loading for some time. How much time can be allowed? Can anyone guess? I click a link and the next page is loading. How much max time it can take? Like what is the allowed response time as per the standards? Can anyone guess?
Less than 5 seconds.
5 seconds. 5 seconds.
So
As
the
per SLA.
industry, yeah. So the industry standard is 2 seconds. Okay, the
Okay.
industry standard is 2 seconds, and in some projects they accept for 3 seconds, and in some projects they accept for 5 seconds also, depending on the project complexity. Sometimes the project architecture will be so complex that they have to accept little bit more response times like 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds. Otherwise, as per the performance testing standards, okay, 2 seconds is the standard response time that is accepted. Okay, now if you are
Okay.
working in any project, the client or the application team will give you the expected response times that will be accepted. Okay, we have a term for it called SLA. We'll discuss that term later. But in general, in every project, they will give you a max value that can be allowed as a response time. If when you run a test, and if any of the transactions or if any of the actions that we are performing, if it is taking more than the 2 seconds or 3 seconds or 5 seconds, whatever it is, as per your application, then you have to report it to the entire team, like application team, client, and whoever it is, everyone, to everyone, saying that, hey, when I click, let's say, hey, when I click on this fish link here, it is taking 7 to 8 seconds. Can you please look into it? I just clicked when I run the when I run the load test with let's say 500 users, and those users clicking on fish, and let's say it is taking 7 to 8 seconds, which is really on the higher side. Then you have to tell the client that, hey, this clicking on fish action is actually taking 7 to 8 seconds. Can you look into it? So you have to inform the developers who are working on it. Okay, so that is response times. Also, apart from response times, we also verify other things like server CPU utilization, the memory utilization, and all that stuff. So here we CPU utilization, memory utilization, like that we monitor various metrics. Okay, so hope everyone are clear so far. So for how long we run this? We run for 1 hour steady state. Okay, and what do we verify? We verify these metrics. I mean, these are the basic metrics, but we do verify few others as well, which we'll discuss in our upcoming sessions. Okay, I just gave some examples here. And also, I'll write this point. This is the first major type of performance test, or the test we run. Okay, and this will be load will be given by the users, and we will run it for 1 hour steady state, and we verify these metrics and some other metrics as well. Any questions? Any questions in this? Did everyone understand the theoretical concept? Practically,
No.
we'll implement the same thing practically. Okay, we'll run for 1 hour,
Okay.
but not today. Okay, we
So,
have to learn the scripting also, right? Go ahead, yeah.
sir, this response time depends on what type of parameters. Mm.
Sorry. Response times. So as I said, so here this is a client from where the requests are being sent. Okay. So here this is a server. This is a client where you have these buttons and all, link or button. So let's say I'm running the test. This is the application. Let's say this is the application. I'm running the test with 500 users. So all these 500 users will come and click this link, and 500 requests will go here. 500 requests will go and go to server. This is a server. Which server? The application server. Okay, I'll tell you, because we didn't discuss what is server and all. There is a separate session for it, probably tomorrow. What is a server and all? We have to discuss what is a server, what is application server, what is database server, what is web server. We will have to discuss all those concepts, and then you will understand in much better way. But for your question, so response times will depend on your network bandwidth. Okay, how good is your network? If your network is too slow, then the request will go slowly and come back slowly, isn't it? That is one important parameter.
Yes, sir.
Then one more parameter is your one more parameter is your application itself. If your application is very slow in responding for some XYZ reason, there are many reasons why your application can be slow. Okay, you click a link and you see the page loading forever. Okay, I'm sure many of you might have seen this in real time. You might have clicked some link while booking a movie ticket or booking some train ticket or something, and the page keeps on loading forever. Okay, or it will take some more time rather, than usual. So if the application itself is too slow, and that will also be one of the parameter for the response times getting impacted. So network bandwidth, application issues, these are the primary reasons. Okay, so any other questions?
Hello,
Yeah, go ahead.
sir. We are sending the 500 requests, right? So
Mhm.
we are taking the response time of each and every request.
uh, the tool will collect each and every response time of each and every request, and it will give you minimum, uh, average, and maximum, and there are something like 90th percentile and all. So it will give you like what is the minimum, like totally 500 requests went to server, right? So for all those 500, what
Hmm.
is the minimum, what is the average, what is the maximum, and what is this 90th percentile? It will give us the metric, it will give us these results, when you analyze it. So we need not know,
So,
every 5 times we need not know, right? So sometimes I will send like 25,000 times. So what how are we going, how are you going to verify 25,000 response times, right? So that's the reason
Uh,
these are taken into consideration. Okay, minimum, average, maximum, 90th percentile, these are taken into consideration. Okay, so
these will be given by client side.
no, we will see in the report what is the minimum time, what is the average, what is the maximum we are getting. Client will tell you that my, let's say client will tell you my average response time should not exceed more than 5 seconds. Okay, then in
Okay.
the report we will go and check the average response time. Okay, let me show you one report from the previous things quickly. So whenever you run any test, you will get the response times in terms of minimum response time, average response time, maximum response time, like that. So from that only you have to analyze. So if anything is, if client is saying, I'll tell you, let the report open, I'll show you. This is how the actual report will be, okay, when you run a test. So if you scroll down here, if you see, these are the transactions. See, one is launch. Okay, one second. Okay, so see here, launch, login, like that. These are the transactions. No, total 42 times, 42 requests we sent actually for launch. Total 42 requests we sent for launch. Let's say out of 42 requests, so every time you will get some response time, right? A request will go to server, you will get some response time. 42 times you will get. Out of that, the tool will calculate minimum, average, maximum, and 90th percentile. These are important. So minimum response time what we got is 2.4 seconds. Average what we got is 2.8 seconds. Maximum what we got is 4.9 seconds. If your client is saying that my average response time should not exceed 2 seconds, let's say, that means this transaction is having some performance issue. Everyone understood? If client is saying
Yes.
that my average response time, that means when I click a link, on an average it should not exceed 2 seconds. And if it is exceeding 2 seconds like this, that means there is some issue that the developers have to look into, and this will be an observation or a concern which will be raised by us, and the development team will take care of it. Okay, any questions?
Sir, this what about this failed one?
Sorry.
Failed test cases also will be there, right? Failed requests also.
Fail
Pass
we will
is
not,
given, right?
fine, fail will not take into consideration. So
Okay.
fail are like, it will not have any impact on the response times. Okay, at least fail will not have any impact on these response times. So these response times are like overall picture. It's not only failure or something, it's an overall picture. You totally you sent like 50 or 500 requests, and for those 500, what is minimum, what is average, what is maximum. Okay, now
Okay.
if you want to decide whether this whole test is a pass or fail, then I will take this into consideration, but we'll discuss that later.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay, sir.
yeah. Okay, now that's about the load test. And then we are not doing it practically, guys. I'm just telling you the concept so that it will be easy for you to do it practically later on. Next one is stress test. Okay, so stress test is like as the name itself, uh, is self-explanatory. It means we are stressing the system. Okay, so whatever the load that you have applied here, you have to test with more load than this number, than the number that we have tested here. So for example, you tested with 500 users here. So in stress test, you can run it with 600, 700, 800, 900, like that. So you have to increase the load that means you are actually applying more stress. Everyone agree? Okay. So stress test means applying more volume than the load test. Okay, more volume or users, whatever it is, applying more volume or users than the load test. So for example, in load test, we we used 500 users. Okay, we tested with 500 users. Basically, we tested with 500 users. We tested with 500 users. Now in stress test, we might use or we might test, we might go with more than 500. It could be 600 or 700 or 800 and so on. And sometimes the client will ask you to test until the application breaks. That means the client will tell you that, hey, can you stress the system or can you stress the application until it breaks? What do you mean by that? Can anyone tell me? What if the client is saying, hey, can you test the application or until it breaks? What does that mean?
Application crash.
Capable
It is like a breaking that application.
capabilities.
Correct. So that means you are trying to identify the breaking point.
Yes.
Trying to identify the breaking point. At some point, the application will not respond. That means every machine, okay, every application will have certain capacity that it can handle. Okay, every application will have certain capacity that it can handle. If the volume is exceeding the capacity, then it will not respond. Okay, so what we have to do, we have to continuously keep on increasing the users and stress the application. Okay, and at some point it will reach the breaking point. That means the application will break. Everyone understood? Or I can tell you one generic example also. Let's say there is a restaurant and then there are 5 tables in that restaurant, and there is one helper who is actually taking the food orders and delivering the food on the table. Okay, for all those 5 tables. Now because of demand, the owner increased the number of type the owner increased the number of tables from 5 to 7. Now this helper who was initially handling 5 tables now has to handle 7 tables. That means the helper should accept the orders from all 7 tables and deliver the food accordingly. Now, due to further demand, the owner of the restaurant decided to increase the number of tables from 7 to 9. Now, in this case, when the tables increased from 7 to 9, that single helper, okay, was still able to accept the orders and 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 deliver the food, but the amount of time taken to deliver the food will be more. Let's say when the user is handling 5 or 7 tables, let's say the user was able to deliver the food in 20 minutes. Now because the tables increased to 9, the time taken to deliver the food is like, let's say, 40 minutes. That means the more amount of tables, the more stress you applied, the helper couldn't handle it. Okay, very simple. Now let's say the owner decided to increase the number of tables from 9 to 11. Now when the table count was 9, the helper was not able to handle alone. The helper took almost double the time. Like earlier, the helper used to take only 20 minutes to take the order, deliver food and all. Now the helper is taking around 40 minutes. That means the time taken is doubled. Now, if the tables keep on increasing, then obviously the helper will now say that, hey, I cannot handle all the tables. I'm quitting the job. Okay, because That's the max. 9 tables was the max the helper could handle, and that too with some performance issues. How? Because the time taken to deliver the food increased from 20 minutes to 40 minutes, isn't it? So 5 tables, 7 tables was okay, but nine table was still okay, but the performance was very poor. Okay, instead of 20 minutes, it was taking 40 minutes. Now instead of 9, if they are going for 11 tables, and then the helper did not handle it properly, and like like you know uh, the helper could not handle 11 tables. That's the max. So what's the max number of tables the helper could handle? Only 9. That's the breaking point. Okay, that means beyond 9 everything will break. Everyone understood?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so as I said, is it this name itself is self-explanatory. We just need to apply more volume here. Okay, than the load test. Now what is that? For how long we are going to run this test? It depends, but again we will run for 1 hour only. Okay, this test also will run for 1 hour only. What is that we verify? We verify again all these basic things and few more metrics as well. And then number of users, this can keep on changing, or this number will keep on increasing. Okay, so this is the second type of test that we discussed. Then let's go to the third one. What is the third one? Endurance or soak or duration test. Okay, this is also one of the important type of test. Okay, very important type of test. So some projects we call it as endurance, in some projects we call it as soak, in some projects we call it as duration test. All meaning of these three names are same. That means whatever you call it, we are going to run the same test. What exactly we are going to verify here? In this type of test, we are actually seeing the stability of the application. Okay, so here we are going to check the stability of the application. Okay, checking the stability of the application by running the test for longer duration, like 3 hours, 5 hours, 8 hours, 1 day, etc., like up to 2-3 days also. So in this type of test, we are primarily focusing on the stability of the application. How stable is the application if it is running for longer duration? Very clear? Okay. Now, what is the load that you will apply? Oh, okay. So here, before going to that, for how long we are going to run this test? Anyone? For how
Yes.
long we are going to
3
run this
hours.
test? Depends on the project. In some
Servers are
projects, 3 hours. In some projects, three
Yes,
hours. In
4 hours.
some projects, 5 hours. In some projects, 8 hours, like that. Okay. So that this test we will run for longer duration. So what exactly we are trying to achieve here is, let's say you are running the test for 5 hours. So whatever the response times you are getting in the first 1 hour, or how the application is behaving in the first 1 hour, the application should behave in the same way throughout the test. Okay, that means let's say there is a launch transaction, there is a launch action. So launch in the first 1 hour, on an average, it is taking 1.5 seconds response time on an average in the first 1 hour. In the second hour, third hour, fourth hour, fifth hour also, it should be similar, like anywhere between 1 to 2 or less than 2, like that. Now, in the first 1 hour, let's say if it is 1.5 seconds, let's say in the second also 1.5 seconds. Let's say in the third 1 hour, suddenly you are seeing 3 seconds. In the fourth 1 hour, you are seeing something like 4 seconds. So what is happening here? The application, we are running one transaction called launch, or step or action called launch, and we are just hitting that URL. We are not doing anything actually specific. We are just hitting that URL. That's the launch. And why it should take 1.5 second in the first time, and sometimes why it should first hour, why it on an average it should take 3 hours in the third hour. So that means there is some instability here, isn't it? So the when you are running a test, okay, or if you are performing some action like launch or whatever it is, it should perform same or similar throughout the test. Even if you run for 3 hours, even if you run for 5 hours, or even if you run for 8 hours, it should run in a more stable way. Everyone understood? So that is what we are going to
Sir,
verify
how
here.
much load we have applied?
Correct. Good question. That also we'll see. So the question that is asked is, what is the load or how much load we have to apply for this type of test? So for this type of test, it depends on project. Okay. Some projects will use 100% load as 100% volume. I can tell you volume as load test. Simple. So that means whatever the number of users you have used here, same users you have to go here as well. In some projects, they will take only 75% volume of the load test. That means 75% of the load is what they take. So what is 75% of the load? Let's assume load is 500 users, load test. What is 75%? 375. So that means in some projects, they will go with 500 users as it is. In some projects, they will use 75%. That is, in some projects, they will use 75%. Uh, okay, everyone understood?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, yes.
it depends on your project. So now you can ask me, sir, which one I should follow then? Then do one thing. If you are assigned to some project, and in that project, if they are already following something like 100% or 75%, you also follow the same thing. Okay. And if you are assigned to some project where you need to take the decision, then I suggest you to take or go with this one, because I don't see any reason, major reason, why we need to bring down the number of users for stability test. So what I feel is the volume should be same, and then there should be the stability. Okay, so that's what I feel. So that's the reason, if I was asked to select, then I prefer this one. Okay. And all the recent projects or the previous projects that I supported, whenever I got chance, I always selected 100% volume 100% load only. That means how many users I used in the load test, same number of users I will use it in the endurance test or soak test or duration test. Okay, here also we verify all those important metrics. At the same time, we focus on one more error here, which is called memory leak. I'll tell you what is memory leak later in a separate session, but there is one more issue, okay, which is called memory leak, which can be which can be like like the thing is, this type of error is mostly found in this type of test. Okay, I'm not saying that this error you will not find in stress test or load test. You can find it, but the chances of getting this error is very high in endurance test. Everyone understood? But I'll explain this concept later. It's a different concept. Everyone understood what is endurance test?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions?
No.
Okay. Um, 3 hours load test, 75%. Very good. Okay. We are going to verify all this stuff. That's fine. Now let's say the next one is scalability test. So this scalability test is all about checking the scalability. So here there is a term called scalability, and it is, of course, it is straightforward. Directly it is related to scalability test. So checking the scalability of the application, okay, considering the future growth, okay, checking the performance, scalability of the application, considering the future growth. What do you mean by future growth? Okay, so let's say client client or the owner of the application came to you and said, hey, uh, today we are running the load test with 500 users. I'm okay with it. But I assume or I believe that in the next 6 months or 1 year, my number of users accessing the application will be will be increased by 2 times or will be doubled. That means your client is saying that in the next 6 months or 1 year, the users accessing their application is going to increase by 2 times or double. So what you have to do now when client is saying like that? So when client is saying like that, okay, so you are saying that the volume or the load will be increased or doubled. That's fine. So considering the future growth of the application, now itself we have to run, okay, we have to run a scalability test, okay, with whatever the growth mentioned by client. For example, client said business will increase by 50%, okay, in next 6 months. So when I say business, that means the users gonna increase. Yes or no? Okay. So what is the load test volume that we have used here? Example for today, 500. So what the client is saying here? Business will increase by 50% in next 6 months. So in this case, you have to do a scalability test of 150%. So in this load test is always considered to be or called as a 100% load test. This load test is always considered to be a 100% load test. Now here, when the client is saying business will increase by 50% in the next 6 months, that means now itself you have to run with 150% of the users. Can anyone tell what is 150% of the users?
750 users.
In this case, yeah, correct. In this case, 150% is nothing but 500 plus 250, that is 750 users. Now this type of test will be performed ad hoc also. There can be some ad hoc requests, that means a sudden request from the client. I'll tell you one good example. In 2020, I was working for one of the banking client. Okay, I was working for one of the banking client at that time in 2020, and we all know that there was a pandemic in the month of March or sometime, if I remember correctly. So what happened uh, during that pandemic? All the users started using online application. Uh, People were not going directly to banks. Yes or no? They were not going to banks directly. They wanted to use online services. So
Yes.
what happened at that time is, so client scheduled a meeting with us, and client said that due to pandemic, the number of users accessing the application, okay, due to pandemic, the number of users accessing the application is going to increase by 400% in the next 3 months. So this is the same statement they used. Okay, so due to pandemic, the number of users accessing the application, our application, is going to increase up to 400%. What do you mean by that, guys? So what exactly we have to do in that case? Can anyone tell? Any guess? Okay, let's assume for the same example, 100% load test is nothing but 500 users. Okay, that's what I told you here also, right? Now, what client said, as per my example, business or the sorry, people starting using the bank or users will increase up to 400%. Then what we have to do in that case? Can anyone tell?
Infrastructure need to be
2000 users.
your servers also need to come.
So
2000 users, it is not supported, right? In that case, we need to increase that servers and RAM and many things, right? You need to consider.
correct, but what we have to do first? If you are saying what if it is not supported, then we will have to increase. That's fine. But what we have to do as a performance tester?
Verify.
We need to do
We
the
have
load
to
test
increase the
first.
load up to 2000. do the scalability
No, we
testing.
can't directly. No, we can't directly 2,000 users. We need to increase again 750. What is the response time? You need to check that, and again you need to increase that. So okay, this much of user my application is supported. Then based on that, we need to parallelly increase the servers and everything.
Correct. So in this case, you should not directly go and execute 400% like this.
Exactly,
What is 400% load test as per some of you? It is 2000
2,000.
users. Correct. That's fine. But you should not run this directly. Rather, you have to go gradually. Let's say you run a 200% load test, and then
Exactly.
this is with 1000 users, and then you run, if that is also successful, then run a 300% load test, let's say with 1500 users. So why exactly we are following this process is, so client said in next 3 months the users might go up to this number, and the client is saying, hey, can you test with 2000 users now itself and tell me whether our applications are able to handle or not. No no if first you have to run this, okay, and then if this is successful, then you run this, and if this is also successful, then you run this. If this is also successful, you have to run this. Why we have to run this gradually? Now if you're running this directly, and if this is a failure, then client will ask you, is it supporting 1000 users? Then what will be your answer then? How do you
That's
know
true.
that it is going
Okay.
to support or not going to support? Because you directly ran 2000, right? that's the reason That's the reason you have to gradually increase. Okay. Now, so when we were supporting, right, in 2020, we were supporting around 15 to 20 applications as a team. So in those 15 to 20 applications, around 7 to 8 applications, I'm just taking an example, 7 to 8 applications were able to withstand the load of 2000 users, or 400%. Around 7 to 8 applications was able to withstand the load. That means those applications were able to handle the load of these users. Remaining 12 to 13 users were failing around this point. Remaining 12 to 13 applications were failing around this point. So in this case, what we had to do is, because we didn't have much time, because it was a pandemic, right? So the only solution, immediate solution, is to increase the capacity of the servers. Increase the capacity of the servers. Okay, that means you have to scale up or scale out. You have to scale up or scale out. Tomorrow I'll tell you the definition of these two terms. Okay, so that means you have to scale up or scale out the application servers. That means you have to increase them in terms of RAM or CPU or whatever it is. Or you can add multiple servers, you can add more servers, like that. So, okay, so they increase the capacity, and then again we have to run this test and this test also, and then we have to confirm that, hey, after increasing the capacity, the application is able to take this much load. Okay, everyone understood? So so one thing is, in in many applications, in many projects, if you are running this test, basically they don't run this, because they both are not same, but we can achieve something if you run any of these at least. Okay, no need to run both. If you run either this or this, that will give you a clear picture. Here we are at least testing the breaking point, right? In another way, we are testing the breaking point here. Here also we are testing whether it is breaking or not. Yes or no? So if someone is asking you, like a client is coming to client is coming to you and asking, I don't have any information about the performance testing. I don't have anything. I don't know any information about performance testing. I'm completely unaware of it. You suggest me what are the different types of tests that I need to run. Then I suggest you to run these three. I suggest to run these three. I mean, considering these three, because I already told you this entire performance testing is measured in terms of speed, stability, and scalability, right? So speed is mapped to load test, stability is mapped to endurance test, scalability is mapped to scalability test. So I suggest client that you can go with load test, endurance test, and scalability or stress test. Okay, I'm okay with any of that. Okay, so that's what you have to tell. When client is not telling you anything, if client is telling you, hey, run load test, run stress test, okay. If client is not giving you any information and asking you to decide, then you tell that according to the performance testing standard, basically it is actually measured in terms of speed, stability, and scalability. Hence, I'm going to suggest you load test, endurance test, and scalability test. Everyone understood? So
Yes.
that's the scalability test. Now this is a volume test. That's the next one, and this one is the one which we are going to discuss, and this one we will discuss at a very high level. But this one we will discuss tomorrow, because to understand what is failover test and to understand how it is executed, we have to understand few more terms and terminologies, like what is a server, what is an app server, what is a web server, what is a database server, okay, what is a load balancer, like that. So we will discuss all those terms tomorrow, and tomorrow, continuation to that, I will explain you this type of this test also, failover test, very very important in the recent times. Okay, so now coming back again, we'll discuss this volume test. See, what do you mean by volume test? Volume test is same as load test, except that the data in the application database should be huge. The data in the application database should be huge. Okay, so I'm going to write the statement. See here, this is similar to or similar or same as load test, except that there should be a huge data in the database, in the application database before the test. So this is same as load test. Okay, that means I'm going to use the same thing. Why? Because just now I said it is same as load test, right? So I will use the same thing. Load 1 hour steady state. I'll verify whatever I want. Same thing. I'll do the same thing. But only condition is, before running this, you have to intentionally insert a huge amount of data in the database. Why? See, in in any application, the data keeps on increasing. Yes or no? Now let's say I have a bank application. Now suddenly 10,000 users take start a savings account. 10,000 users transfer money. Okay, 10,000 users take some bank loan, right? That means so much of information is going to store in the database. Okay, you, for example, you have an account in the bank. Where the information is stored, where is your information stored? You have your account number, you have your bank balance, you have your address, you have your credit card number, you have your loan payment, you have your loan payment history. If Where is the data stored? Where is your data stored? In the database. Everyone agree? The entire data of the application will be in the database. Everyone agree? Otherwise, where are we going to store the data? It could be any application. Data will be there on the database. Take one college. Okay, a big college. It started for the first year. First year college started. So in that college, you need to maintain some information. What information you need to maintain, guys? Can anyone tell?
Anything,
Students'
customer
information,
detail,
Students
customer.
information, faculty information, that is training or
faculty,
teachers information, staff administration, staff information, like security information, uh, anything like infrastructure information, buses related information. Okay, everything should be there. That means in the first year of college starting, let's say some 4,000 data is stored in the database. Is the data going to remain the same after 10 years? Every year students are coming, right? Every year new teachers are coming, right? Every year new administration team is coming, right? New people are joining, right? That doesn't mean that you are removing or deleting the previous year students data, right? So let's say you graduated in the year 2020. Now which year, currently which year are we are in? 2025. If you go to college and give your college student ID, can't they tell you your details? Will they tell you details, or they don't tell you details?
They will
They
tell.
will tell the details.
They will
From
tell the
where they
details.
are telling the details? The details are
They
stored in
will
the
have the
database.
records.
Have the records. They are stored in the database. That means every year the data keeps on increasing. Okay. Similarly, any application, take any e-commerce website. Okay. Every year users are increasing. Every year people are purchasing online. Keep on increasing. Okay. Every year it is increasing only. Every year that information is increasing. Previous information is stored. New information is added. Similar process. That means if you are testing any application for its performance, you should always think about how much data might be added in the future, maybe after 4 or 5 years. Now what you have to do, let's say in future, assume that 50,000 records are going to be inserted in the database. Then what you have to do now, discuss with the database team and ask them to send or insert some dummy data around 50,000 records in the database, and then you run this load test kind of thing. Okay, then what is that we are going to verify? What is the difference? The difference is database is also one of the important component in the architecture in every project, and there can be lot many issues from the database. And when those issues will come, primarily if you have lot of data, that's the reason we are inserting huge amount of data first itself in the database with the help of database team DBS, and then running the performance test, that is a load test, and then you're going to verify the response times and all that stuff. The assumption is even after having a huge amount of data in the database, the queries which are running, how many of you know SQL queries? I'll tell you later, but you know SQL queries, right? That's how the data will be extracted or inserted in the database. So
Yes.
with lot of information in the database, with lot of records in the database, the SQL queries which are running, the queries which are running to to read the data, to insert the data, to update the data, are those queries running fast, or are those running impacted with the addition of 50,000 records or huge amount of data? Are those queries running slowly? Is there any performance issue? That is what we are going to verify here. Focus. It's more primarily towards database performance issues. Everyone understood? Okay, but
Hello.
this test is done very rarely. I mean, it's not like every project we will have to do this test. If you ask me, sir, recently when did you run this, I don't even remember. Okay, that's what I'm saying. So it's not mandatory that you have to execute this, but you have to know what exactly it is, so that in case in future if someone is asking you to run, then you should not like feel like I don't know or something like that. Everyone understood?
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah.
Sir, database, if the database is full, then the application will not respond.
Database is full. How do you say database is full, on what basis?
I
In the
mean, when
test,
we
we
start
are
inserting the
inserting the data in the database, right? Dummy
Hmm.
data.
Hmm. That is what I'm saying. Even when the database is almost full, your performance should not impact. The query should run quickly. The pages should load quickly on the UI as well. That's what we are going to test. Yes, we are increasing the data. That's how we are assuming in the production in the real time also in future. So considering that, We are actually inserting huge amount of data and running the load test, and we are analyzing the queries, how it is performing. Now let's say, sir, after adding the query, after adding so much of data in the database, the SQL perform, the queries are not performing good. The performance degraded completely. Then what could be that? What is the solution? The solution is either you tune the queries in such a way that it will run fast, or increase the capacity of the database, or increase the capacity of database. Okay, sorry, go on mute. So if so, um, let's say, I mean, in any project, right? The project team will buy database in terms of license, package license. So let's say I'm buying Oracle for my project. I'm taking Oracle for my project. Now I will tell Oracle team that, hey, for my application, can you give me a Oracle package, a database? We should at least support, at least support, let's say 20 lakh records. Got it? Now, if you feel that the number keeps on increasing and it is reaching 20 lakh, there are three solutions what they will implement. Either they will tune the queries, because of which performance is slow. If the records are reaching 20 lakhs, because you cannot store more than 20 lakhs, because that's the package that you bought from Oracle. Then there are three solutions. One is either you tune the queries to run it better way. Second is you can remove the old and outdated data. Let's say this 20 lakh records contains 20 lakh records contains the data of last 10 years. You can discuss with your business and ask them and take permission that you can remove the the first 20, last instance, the oldest 2 years records. You can delete with the help of database team. You can delete the very oldest. You can still keep 8 years, but you can keep the very oldest. You can delete the very oldest ones. That is another solution. The third solution is increase the capacity. Go again and tell to Oracle, hey, can you upgrade my database package? Now I want the database to support 50 lakh records. That's it. So they will upgrade the database. Now your database can handle 50 lakh records also. Everyone understood? Okay. So that's in theoretical, but keep it in mind that they might ask you these questions in interviews. You might not run these in your actual load projects, but they will definitely ask here and there about volume test also. Okay, like they will ask you what exactly will happen, why are we adding data, what is the solution if the SQL queries are running very poorly, what is the options we have, and all that stuff. Okay, that's the volume test. And then there is spike test. Failover test we'll discuss tomorrow. That's what we discussed, right? So we'll clearly discuss failover test tomorrow with a good example. I have to draw some diagrams and explain you that failover test tomorrow. So spike test is nothing but we are testing the application. We are testing the application for extreme sudden extreme increase in the user volume and sudden decrease in the user volume. Understood? So you are testing the application with suddenly increasing the user volume, suddenly decreasing the user volume. Let's say you started the test with 100 users. After 2 minutes, you added another 100 quickly, and immediately after 30 seconds or after 1 minute or 2 minutes, you immediately brought those 200 down. You removed those 200 users. Again, you added another 200. Again you added another, again you removed another 200, like that. That means you are suddenly increasing the number of users and suddenly decreasing the number of users. You're not giving any breathing time to the server. So that means when you're not giving any breathing time to the server, how the server is handling the application, that is what we are going to test it in the spike test. Okay, this is also rarely done, but good to have some information about it, like what we have discussed now. Okay, so Spike test, we have to discuss with the development team and ask them how they want us to increase or decrease, how they want us to test. Based on our understanding, we will do that, like sudden increase 100, remove 100, add 400, remove 100, like that. Okay, I'll tell you that later, but hope you understood the basic definition of it or meaning of it. So today we discussed load test, stress test, endurance test, scalability test, volume test, and bit of spike test. In tomorrow's session, we are going to discuss about what is server, what is web server, what is application server, what is database server, what is failover testing. Okay, very important for interviews point of view. I could have given a simple slide for all these things, and I could have asked you to go through the slides, but I want you to understand. Okay, so when we discuss, when we ask questions, when we discuss, both sides, then it will be easy for everyone to understand. That's the reason I have written all these notes today. Okay, I will share this notepad with you. You can keep it handy, but at the same time, I'll share the slides also later on. Okay, any questions?
So right now, what version you are explain that?
So recently 2023 released. 2024 is just a beta version. So the stable version what we are using is 2022. That's what we are going to discuss.
So what is the LRE meaning right now? So earlier it's different. Now coming on LRE advanced. What is it LRE?
LRE, LRE is LoadRunner Enterprise. Uh, so there is only one difference, how it was earlier and how it is now. Basically, let me one. Yesterday we discussed about LoadRunner architecture, right? In this architecture, there is one component called controller or performance center, right? So what is this component used for? What did we discuss yesterday?
To
Start
decide
execution.
the test or load test.
So whatever the scenarios that we discussed today, all those scenarios can be created in the controller or performance center. You can add users, you can add scripts, you can create a load test, you can schedule it to run for 1 hour, you can schedule it to run for 3 hours. All those things you can do it in controller or performance center. This thing is a standalone component. Like for example, here when I launch controller, you see controller, I launch it as a standalone component, and I can do all those stuff, whatever we discussed so far. LRE, LoadRunner Enterprise, has one major difference, that is, instead of this controller, which is a standalone component, they're actually giving you the enterprise version of this, which is a URL based. For example, they will give you a URL and you have to browse that in the URL, and then all the things whatever you can do in controller, the same things you can do it in the enterprise version, the LRE version also. Okay, this is common. This is there in LRE. I mean, when you install LRE, you will get this also. You will get this also. Okay. The only thing that will change is, instead of controller, which is a standalone component, you will get a URL based component, a SaaS based component, which we call it as LRE enterprise version, where you can log in and create scenarios, different types of scenarios, add scripts, add users, schedule test for 1 hour, schedule test for 3 hours, whatever you can do in controller, the same things you can do. See, with same option names, everything is same, but it will be on the browser. This is a standalone component. Okay, that's the reason in yesterday's demo session also, I clearly told you that I will be giving you additionally 10 to 12 recorded sessions of a playlist, a complete playlist of LRE. Okay, I will tell you in live session this one, how to create and all that stuff. Only login will be different, the launching will be different. Remaining everything is same here and here. Okay, so you can just go through those recorded sessions. It's a complete end-to-end testing here. We have added end-to-end testing complete, like when you join any project, where will you start, what will you do, how will you take the input, what will you do sequentially one after the other, How will you create a scenario in LRE? How will you run? How will you schedule? Everything is there in these 10 to 12 sessions with respect to the enterprise edition. Okay, clear?
So in future section, you are running the test in only controller or LRE?
I will run in controller in a live session. LRE, I will give you the recorded session batch. LRE playlist, I'll give you the recorded sessions for the batch, because all the concepts are same. How you execute, how you run, how you schedule, everything is same. Okay, there is no change at all. Only change is here it is a standalone component, the controller. There we will access it through a URL. That's it. Only one step is different. Other than everything is same. Okay, so you go through the you attend LoadRunner controller sessions, everything. Then go to LRE and see that playlist. That's it. It will be easy for you. You will learn both at a time. Okay.
So LR, what is the
Sorry,
right now? What is
company.
the version running?
Same thing, 2022 only.
Okay. So
It
recent.
doesn't it doesn't have much difference. It doesn't have much difference, LRE, in terms of the versions. Very minor differences are there. Whenever you log into any load runner, right? Let's say you downloaded, let's say yesterday we launched Vuegen, right? So the major changes in every version to version will be in Vuegen, not in control, not in LRE, the enterprise, not in the controller part or something. Okay, very rare changes will be there. So when you launch, right, you will see like this. What is the latest version? What is changed? If you click on this, it will tell you what is the difference. What did they release in the recent version of a LoadRunner? If you click on this, simple. Okay, so you see there is no much difference. See, so just some improvements, security enhancements, stability, like that. So these are all, they'll just release a version just to improve the performance of the application, like this application. When you run with so many users, when you do a lot of scripting, how the script should behave, and it should not stuck, it should not freeze, the tool should respond properly, tool should be friendly. For those aspects, they will release all those things. But I don't think any
Our class
functionality
will start 2022.
yes, that's a stable version.
Okay. Current version is 24.
24 recently released a beta version like a month ago or so. It is not
Okay.
it is not being used in the market anyways. Okay, so
Thank you, sir.
yeah, so any other questions?
So when you are start that classes, you are given to entire what is this? What is it? Software also, right?
Yeah, our team will guide you on that. Yeah, they will guide you. They will tell you what to do on that. Yeah, they will tell you how to practice.
So before starting your classes, real
Be-
classes, and before we need to give that, right?
all these are real classes only, right? So when I start practicals,
No, no,
before
the
I
practicals.
yeah, so basically when I start practicals, before that they will give you correct. They will tell you what to do on that. Yeah,
Thank you, sir.
yeah, okay.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, present companies are using LREs or